Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Climate and Infrastructure Committee for August 14th, 2025. I'm Katie Cashman, the chair of this committee. Before we call the meeting to order, I'd like to offer a friendly reminder to all members, staff, and public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning to increase the accessibility of our proceedings. Please moderate the speed and clarity of your comments so that the captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify quorum.
Councilmember Vita.
Present.
Osman is absent. Chavez.
Present.
Chowdhury.
Present.
Vice Chair Koski.
Present.
Chair Cashman.
Present.
We have 5 present.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum. And a note for the public, if you are here for the public hearing on sidewalk assessments, please sign up with the clerks to get on the list for that public hearing. So I'm going to put myself in queue right away to move to add an item to our agenda today, which is a legislative directive. You have copies in front of you, and the RCA is also submitted online. So I'll first move to amend the agenda to add this item. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion on the motion to amend the agenda, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. So now we will take up our consent agenda, items 2 through 5. Item 2 is approving the appointment of Nate Boone to the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Item 3 is setting a public hearing for September 30th to consider municipal consent of the University Avenue Northeast improvements. Item 4 is setting a public hearing for October 16th to consider the proposed 2026 services and service charges for various special service districts. And item 5 is setting a public hearing for September 18th to consider an ordinance amending which renews the Downtown Business Improvement District for a 5-year period. Is there any discussion on items 2 through 5? Seeing none, I will move approval of all those items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Those items are approved. So next we will take up the legislative directive that you have in front of you. It is a series of questions put together by my office and Council Vice President Chugtai, Vice Chair Koski, and Councilmember Chowdhury to understand how we've been using the franchise fees collected since they were established, and various methods and administrative procedures that it would take to change and increase these franchise fees in order to raise more money for our Climate Legacy Initiative. I think this work is pretty urgent, just given the climate impacts that we're experiencing and the great progress that we've made in the last few years with our Climate Legacy Initiative has been amazing, and we all know that we're going to need to ramp up funding in order to meet our climate equity plan and the goals in it. So this legislative directive helps us use a data-driven approach to increasing that funding in the years to come. So I will ask if I'll move this legislative directive for approval and ask if there are any questions or comments from other committee members. Yeah. Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you. I'll just keep my remarks really brief. I know we want to get through our agenda, but for the public that has an interest in this item, I think from a perspective of a council member, a piece of information that we really need is just getting a clear idea of like what is the money currently coming in, where is it going, what are the opportunities that we have in utilizing that funding, how much of it is being spent on initiatives that specifically reduce energy use, what other initiatives are they being spent on, And this is just helping us set the foundation to figure out the roadmap to what additional funding we need. And as we come into a budgeting cycle where we're going to be looking at the entire city budget, I think this information just pairs really well with those discussions and will give us information, but it will also give the public some information to weigh in. Want it to be a very people-centered budget this time around. So just wanted to add those comments. And yeah, that's all my comments. Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else in queue on the motion to approve this legislative directive, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. Thank you so much. Next, we will take up our public hearing item. Yes, we will take up the public hearing, which is the passage of a resolution adopting and levying the assessments for sidewalk repair and construction for the 2024 construction season. And if you'd like to speak on this item, please sign up. And I think we have a brief presentation to kick us off. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Chair Cashman, members of the committee. My name is Aaron Johnson, Project Manager in the Transportation Engineering Design Division of Public Works. I oversee the Office of Sidewalk Inspections, and the Public Works annual inspection of sidewalks resulted in 1,637 addresses where repairs took place in 2024. By city ordinance, property owners are responsible for the sidewalk abutting their property. City ordinance also enables procedures for the city to repair sidewalk and to recover the costs through special assessment to the property owners if they have not paid a contractor directly or already reimbursed the city. The process includes an administrative hearing where a hearing officer considers assessment objections and makes decisions prior to the public hearing at your committee today. The administrative hearing officer recommended assessment reductions at 4 properties and dismissal at 1 property. These reductions are accounted for in the draft resolution before you today. When the report was pulled on July 28th, the total amount to be assessed was $1,339,606.70. Public Works' recommendation is to pass the resolution before you and to adopt and levy the special assessments. I'll stay nearby for any questions.
All right, I think we will have the public hearing first and then ask any questions after that. Thank you for the presentation. Oh, we'll just wait a couple minutes here for our other members to come back. All good. I'll now proceed to open the public hearing, and our first speaker is Gail Robinson. Welcome, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Gail Robinson. I'm a resident of Minneapolis, 1400 Penn Avenue North, 55411. And I am here regarding the sidewalk repair that has been assessed to me as a homeowner. I have a tree that's probably 100 years old that has damaged a lot. I called the city regarding the sidewalk. I thought they should know about that danger for people walking down the street. So yes, I did accept your contractors to actually do the work. I feel that it is very unfair that we continue to plant trees that endanger the sidewalks, the utility lines, and then ask the homeowners to repair them. I have a problem with that as a homeowner. My biggest concern is that it damaged the sidewalk and the property. What happens when this tree damages the water line and the sewage? Who is responsible for paying for that? And as a homeowner, I do not feel that we should be responsible when we plant these trees, we should plant them responsibly and not plant them in places where they are going to damage or be a safety factor for people that live in the community. So this invoice I have, they sent us a letter that was dated May 13th. It actually went in the mail and was postmarked the 5th of June. We received it, well, I can say from my home. I received it on the 7th, and they were asking me to set up a hearing by the 9th. Now, I think all those dates are a little bit unrealistic. So if you're going to write the letter on the 13th, then mail the letter on the 13th, have it arrive to us, and don't give us 14 days to respond, because we don't have but 2 days. I was told that during this hearing so I wasn't able to make the first hearing, and so they said, you'll have another date. So they did acknowledge the fact that they sent them late, and I'm assuming that's to cut me short here. But, yeah, they
You
did
can finish
acknowledge
up.
that they said, but they didn't reach out and say, when is the next time you can do a hearing? So I'm here for the public hearing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for your testimony. We will follow up on some of what you've asked here today, both with staff and in our questions. And I believe that our staff member here would be happy to speak to you directly as well, just
this
outside
Aaron?
the chambers.
I've been wearing Aaron out, so he's.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Joy Nelson from Ward 12. Gotcha. And then okay. Next, we'll take Glenn Robinson.
My name is Glenn Robinson, and I am at Willard Hay neighborhood as well as Miss Robinson. I believe, with her address, I stay right down the street from her. And so I got a problem with paying for this sidewalk that I didn't order. And it seems to me that, pardon my words, but you guys there's always yays and no nays. Does anybody ever say no to a project that property owners have to pay for? We pay for taxes. Every year the taxes go up. Why don't they just take it out of the taxes that's already in there for that year as opposed to adding more to my property taxes? The mayor is already talking about raising the property taxes up 8% or something like that. Where am I supposed to get all this money from? Because I'm a homeowner, and then if I don't pay it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to come after my house. You're going to come after my wages. You're going to do all these things. But the city is charging me $347.29 for this slab of sidewalk that was probably up maybe about, they said it was a half an inch, but I don't think it was a half an inch. So I'm here to contest this payment and any other property taxes that's going to be raised. Water bills going up. Where am I supposed to get all this money from? All this extra money, that's a rhetorical question. What am I supposed to do? I don't want to pay this, and that's my contest, to not pay this and to not pay any other further fees for public sidewalk or public access. They said that this is part of my property. Well, if that's part of my property, I should be able to put a fence around it where people can go around instead of coming through my property. I should be able to do that if that's my property. So I'm contesting this whole thing. My name is Glenn, and I stay at 1426 Upton. And, I hope there be some nays to this concern right here. And any other tax hike. So if the mayor comes in here saying he wants to raise taxes, tell him no. We need some no people and not yays. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak during the public hearing on this item?
Madam Chair, there's no one else signed up at this time.
Thank you. I'll now close the public hearing and ask Aaron a couple of questions here. I think both Ms. Robinson and Mr. Robinson both raised some good points about the who's in charge of covering these fees, the responsibilities of different entities. And I am wondering if first of all, if there are any grant programs available through the city or reimbursements that can be made for damages caused by trees, damages caused by other public investments.
Chair Cashman, members of the committee, I'm not aware of any grant programs related to sidewalk repair. There are we can, over many years, we can have an assessment, depending on the cost of the repair. If it's $150 to $1,500, it can be a 5-year assessment on the property. Anything over $1,500 can be a 10-year assessment. That's the standard. There is a deferment option. Doesn't mean it goes away entirely, and I'm not the expert on that, but it does have to be paid at some point, but it doesn't have to be paid at that time.
Okay, and then with Mr. Robinson's question, what happens if the damages were related to water and sewage?
My understanding is if the lateral that connects to the main to the home is damaged by a tree, is the responsibility of the property owner to have it fixed.
Sorry, could you say that once more?
Chair Cashman, members of the committee, if the lateral connection between the main and the property is damaged by a tree, that would be the responsibility of the property owner to have fixed.
Okay, still the property owner. And then can you share a little bit more about the deferment program available for seniors 65 years or older? Or Mr. Handelin, thanks.
Chair Cashman, I'm Jeff Handeland. I'm a principal professional engineer in the Transportation Engineering Design Division of Public Works. There is, as mentioned, there is a deferment option for special assessments that is, the availability of that is limited to seniors 65 and older, individuals who are permanently or totally disabled, or certain members of the military. The deferment program does not excuse the assessment, but puts off the assessment until sometime in the future. Interest does accrue for as long as the assessment is deferred.
What's the interest rate?
Chair Cashman, interest rates are updated by the Finance Department every year. The current interest rate for 1-year assessment is 3.9%, 5-year is 4.1%, 10-year is 4.3%, and 20-year is 4.7%.
Okay, thank you for the information. I think that both of these residents have raised some good points on just the unaffordability of compounding city fees, and I do sympathize with the responsibilities that are placed on homeowners. Vice Chair Koski?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note for the public and with the staff that we are working together to assess the assessments. Councilmember Chavez and I put together a proposal to ask our policy and research team to both research both the assessments on the sidewalk repairs, but also the sewer and lateral presentation is coming next. Very exciting today, because we do see the high burden that this has on residents, and we want to be more proactive and make sure that we're helping residents. And so we do have another meeting set up with Public Works after that policy and research team came back to Councilor Chavez and I, and so we will have another meeting coming up this fall with next steps on the assessments we were talking about today, but then the sewer water lines, we're getting that presentation today from our policy and research team, which is really thorough, and we're ready to take action to help support our residents. So it's not an immediate, the things that have been talked about today are what we have, but we don't see those to be adequate right now for residents. And so that's why we are doing this work, to do a little more research of what we can do and what's possible for residents. So it is in partnership with our city staff, and we're really grateful that they've been willing to work with us and our policy and research team to be creative and thoughtful and really dig into what would be better for residents. So it's not the solve for today. Today, we do, I'm glad that we have staff here to connect with you, but do know that we are thinking about what the future holds for residents in these areas.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else on council or on the committee who wants to weigh in on this item? If not, I will move approval and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Vita,
Aye.
Chavez,
Aye.
Chowdhury, Vice Chair Koski,
Aye.
and Chair Cashman.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes.
Thank you, and I'll ask Erin if you can please connect with both the residents who spoke today outside as well, just to talk through the procedures and what's next. Thanks. All right, our next item is the Ninth and 10th Street South Corridor Improvement Project, which I'm going to move to continue to the next meeting on September 4th. To allow for a few more stakeholder conversations on this really important downtown project that's had a lot of community engagement. So if there's no discussion, I will just move to continue this to our next meeting and ask for all those in favor on the motion to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries, and we'll take up the 9th and 10th Street Corridor Improvement Project on September 4th. Next, we have our first receive and file presentation, which is related to lateral sewer and water lines. So I'll ask Ashley Juck from Policy and Research to begin that presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair Cashman and members of the committee. My name is Ashley Juck from the Policy and Research Team, and I'm here today to present on sewer lateral and water service line assistance programs. The committee asked for a landscape review of municipal programs or policies designed to assist property owners with the cost of repairing or replacing sewer laterals and water service lines, as well as constraints and opportunities in implementing programs or policies in Minneapolis. Inflow and infiltration, or I&I, is the excess flow of clear water into the city's sanitary sewer system. Inflow is when clear water is channeled directly into the sanitary sewer pipes. Infiltration is when groundwater seeps into sewer pipes via cracks or leaky joints. More than half of this clear water in the metro region sewer system comes from private properties, homes, and businesses. Because the sanitary sewer system was not designed to handle this excess clear water, it becomes overloaded during times of high groundwater or heavy rainfall. This clear water does not need to be treated as wastewater, and it can take up space in the wastewater system and cause costly sewer backups into homes and buildings, or sewer overflows into rivers and lakes. All reductions in I&I reduce the amount of all Minneapolis property owners pay to the Metropolitan Council, who treats the city's wastewater. Because of the public good benefit of reducing I&I, city funds can be used for private sewer lateral repair and replacements. Private water service line replacement, however, does not pass the public purpose test, and public funds cannot be used to repair or replace private water service lines. To provide some context for how many sewer laterals may need to be replaced in the upcoming decades, this graph provides the current best estimates on the ages of sewer laterals for all properties in Minneapolis. As you can see, most sewer laterals are 70 years old or older, and around 60,000 properties, sewer laterals exceed 100 years old. So there will likely be an increased need for repairs and replacements in the upcoming decades. Depending on the area, type of soil, time of year, and other factors, a full sewer lateral replacement can cost anywhere from $7,000 to $20,000. Full replacement costs for water service lines range from $3,500 up to $26,000. The average cost of service line replacements being sent to assessments in Minneapolis in 2025 will be $8,650. On to some assistance programs. As a quick reminder from the April presentation on assessment assistance programs, which included assessment assistance for sewer lateral and water service lines, there is currently some funding available to Minneapolis residents specifically for sewer lateral repairs and replacements through the listed Met Council grant program. There is also state and federal funding for water service lines that is being managed by the city, which is systematically replacing all lead service water lines throughout Minneapolis at no cost to the customer. Sewer lateral assistance programs, I think there's about a dozen examples in the report. They vary greatly in the amount of assistance offered. There does not appear to be any sort of like standard for assistance programs. Types of repairs cover also vary. For example, some just cover televising the pipe, some are full replacement, some are just the public right-of-way portion of the line, some are just the repaving of the public right-of-way portion of the line. Most programs were created to help address excess I&I in the sewer system, with some programs pointing out just the additional benefit of helping residents with these very costly repairs. Programs are funded in a variety of ways as well, including grant programs, general sewer and sanitary fees, wastewater funds, general street infrastructure funds, as well as special fees. Necessary staff time also varies greatly by program and depends on the program's parameters. And finally, program eligibility also varies, sometimes including an income component and sometimes just geographically based. Most of the cities included in the report provide some sort of grant to residents for sewer repair or replacement, either an X percentage of the project or up to X amount of dollars. Minneapolis constraints and opportunities include that the city can legally establish an inflow and infiltration prevention program. That specific program parameters should be created and reviewed in partnership with the city attorney's office and Public Works, and options for including an income component in Minneapolis are explored in the report. A program could have a funding cap or be available to everyone who is eligible, but the possibility of any program would likely depend on the willingness for an increased utility rate. Also, there may be some tax implications for a program that pays directly to the property owner rather than the contractor, as many of the example cities do. City insurance programs, like those in O'Fallon and St. Louis, Missouri, would be more complicated in Minneapolis. In O'Fallon, eligible properties pay $30 a year, then $400 when residents apply for the program. The insurance covers the full cost of repairs and replacements, and work is done by city employees. In St. Louis, eligible properties pay $28 a year to have access to the program, which covers the cost of repairs in the under the public right-of-way section. This type of city insurance is not currently legal under Minnesota law, as all property owners would be charged and not all would ultimately utilize the program, providing them no special benefit. However, just like the Metropolitan Council lobbied and succeeded to change Minnesota statute to allow for public funds to be used for private sewer laterals, the city could lobby the state legislature to allow a change, giving the city the power to exact an insurance program fee. This possibility could be again further explored with the city attorney's office and other appropriate departments, including Public Works and Intergovernmental Relations. Moving into private warranty company partnerships. Hundreds of cities and utility companies across the United States partner with private warranty companies to offer water service line and sewer lateral warranty programs to homeowners. Homeowners voluntarily sign up for warranty protection against normal wear and tear, which can help them save thousands of dollars on repairs. It's important to note that homeowners can sign up for these warranty plans with or without a city or utility partnership. And plans for sewer lateral and or water service lines generally range from about $5 to $12 a month, but partnerships with cities or utilities sometimes lowers the premiums and increases coverage. Critics of the plans, however, say that companies and partnering institutions are selling unwarranted fear and that the plans are overpriced given the likelihood of an expensive issue. For example, one company in a 3-year period through the National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program, more than 400,000 water-related repairs were completed, which did save residents $232 million. However, this equates to an average payout of $580. Common partnership practices include that the private company is responsible for all costs of the program. They are allowed to use the city's name and logo in letters, bills, and marketing materials. Some cities want to be clear that they endorse that very specific company. Others strain to remind residents that it is not an endorsement, simply an option. Cities also generally encourage residents to review and compare coverage and costs for plans from their private homeowners insurance, as well as private warranty options. Cities can also receive royalties from these programs, for example, up to 10% of the premiums from customers. Some have chosen to accept royalties, some have chosen not to accept them, and some have instead negotiated lower premium rates for their residents. A common benefit of partnerships discussed was the opportunity to educate residents on the reality that they are responsible for the sewer laterals. Example cities in the report shared a variety of experiences with these companies. Many have had more than a decades-long partnership with primarily positive experiences. Some cities previously partnered with a warranty company but have since ended the partnership now that homeowners insurance policies usually provide a similar option. Other cities ended the partnership due to mixed reviews from residents' experiences with the companies, or simply due to residents' confusion and the resulting work created after each company mailing. Common complaints from residents include general concern over whether the mailing is legitimate or a scam. Some interpret the mailing as a requirement. Some do not think that the city should be partnering with any private company and disapprove of the use of the city's logo on these company mailings. And some pushback does occur for cities that choose to receive royalties. Opportunities and constraints in Minneapolis for sewer lateral warranty partnerships. First, warranty or additional insurance for sewer laterals could be beneficial for property owners depending on the details. Those details would need to be examined by the city attorney's office and should be sure to cover root intrusion, as that is a very common issue in Minneapolis. If the city chooses to enter a partnership, completing an open request for proposals would be necessary, as partnering with a specific company has legal concerns around perceived endorsement. Anticipated call volume related to the partnership would also likely require additional staff allocations. And finally, rather than partnering with a private company, the city could focus on educating residents about the private warranty options available, as well as a reminder to those a reminder to them to check their homeowners insurance policies to see if anything compares cost and coverage. Though that option would likely require more city resources than partnering with a private company. Considerations for a water service line warranty in Minneapolis include that, first, more than 50% of customers have a copper service line, which rarely leaks. Secondly, as discussed, the city currently has an inventory of all lead service line locations and are actively removing them at no cost to the customer. Due to the state and federal grant program, which is systematically replacing lead service lines at 100% the cost, partnering with a company to suggest insurance or warranties for water service lines may be a disservice to customers at this time. And now moving into point of sale policies. Numerous cities in Minnesota and across the country require sewer lateral inspection before a property is sold, and some require it for rental license renewals as well. Though the goal is usually to reduce I&I, point of sale is seen by some as an ideal time to address repairs as money is already exchanging hands. These policies do not assist homeowners with the cost of the sewer lateral repairs or replacements. However, again, some see them as beneficial as they view that the seller is more likely to have access to the necessary funds to make the repairs rather than a new home buyer. After the inspection, cities then issue certificates of I&I compliance for properties when they either pass the inspection or after completing necessary repairs to become compliant. Common sewer lateral policy parameters include the following. 1, the seller is responsible for repairs or replacement. 2, policies can apply only to a single-family residential property or apply up to all properties. 3, repairs must be completed prior to the sale unless an agreement with the buyer is reached in writing, and the funds, usually about 110 to 125% of the estimated costs, are put in escrow. Some cities have a 90-day time frame for compliance. Others have up to 180 days. The length of the certificate of the I&I compliance validity also varies. Some are good until the next time the property is sold. Some are good for 10 years, some for 20, some for up to 25 if the sewer line is entirely replaced. Most cities also have a tracking mechanism for property sales and I&I compliance certificates. And lastly, as expected, enforcement is difficult. Many cities rely on realtors to help home buyers enforce compliance. Some cities do allow for fines for non-compliance, including Mounds View, Minnesota. Last slide here, opportunities and constraints in Minneapolis for point-of-sale policies. There are no legal concerns around the possibility of creating a point-of-sale policy in Minneapolis, though if a policy includes penalties for noncompliance, any fines will have to meet the standard city fine requirements, including that they can only recoup the cost to the city of administering the program. A policy could make point-of-sale inspections a requirement, or it could simply be a suggestion. Additionally, it could be a standalone policy, or it could possibly be added to the truth and sale of housing requirements. This would need to be further explored with community planning and economic development. Also, the amount of necessary staff time to track and/or enforce a policy depends again greatly on the policy parameters. For example, a policy simply intending to inform the buyer would be far less staff intensive than a policy requiring repairs or replacements. Repairs and replacements would involve more tracking, staff time to review pre and post lateral pipe inspection videos, as well as time to issue and track compliance certificates. And finally, due to the previously discussed water lead service line replacement plan, a policy requiring water service line inspection would likely cause more chaos than benefit at this point. That's the end of my report. As you can see, there is a lot of variety and options available, and I encourage you to read the report for more details, but I'm happy to take any questions now.
Thank you, Ms. Shuck. So many good recommendations in here, and I think there's some things that I'm certainly interested in taking action on with regard to the inspections, or at least the information that the new buyer of a home deserves to have about the conditions, that they should have full disclosure going into purchase of a home. And I'll call on Vice Chair Koski.
Thank you, Chair Cashman. Thank you so much for the report and all the work that you put into it. It is a very lengthy document. I feel like you did a great job with the synopsis here, but there's a ton of work that went into it, so I really appreciate it. I do have a series of questions. You may or may not be able to answer them, so I understand that. And I don't know if city staff would be able to answer today. Potentially, again, we can take this all offline or do a memo too, but you know that I'm going to do a follow-up anyways to discuss this. So many of them can be answered there too, if not today. So some general questions. When you were going through the different cities, which of the case study cities most closely match Minneapolis in terms of housing age, lateral condition, I&I drivers, and economic conditions? And which of the case studies do you think could transfer here with minimal modifications?
I did not look deeply into matching cities as far as age of construction. It really varies. Edina, for example, here in the cities has almost all copper service lines already, just because of the age of when they were put in. And I'm sorry, I did have something else to say, my apologies, to another part of your question, and now I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Vice Chair Koski?
Maybe which of the case studies could transfer here with minimal modifications?
So because all of the case studies, really in all, the point of sale policy case studies were all relatively similar, same with the private warranty partnerships, but the program assistance or the assistance programs, we can kind of, if you can find the funding in theory, a lot of those parameters are just what you want to determine. LA, I know, for example, they pay just for the televising of the pipe, and so that's like a $300 just for doing that. Then they also have a separate grant program that are just a straight $1,000 to anyone who lives in the geographic area and pays the utilities. There's just really not a right or wrong. You could set the parameters, again, however you find the funding. You could pay for just the right-of-way. I think it was Madison who does the overlay of the street because they want to ensure the integrity of their street. So they want a 50-foot patch when someone digs into the street rather than small ones. So the city has just decided to use their general infrastructure funds to pay for those patching. So really any of them are possible. That's why it would, in theory, again, but it would be worth sitting down with Public Works and the city's attorney's office if you want to get into details of one specific version over another.
Okay, thank you. I do have more questions here. And again, this one is a little technical, so you may not know, but looking across all program types reviewed, which options show the highest likelihood of delivering meaningful I&I reduction in Minneapolis as a reasonable cost-benefit ratio?
I don't know if I saw that the programs do reduce, definitely do reduce I&I, but I'm not sure if there's a specific answer of which ones would be more beneficial, but perhaps I will let you take it. Ross.
Hi, Chair Cashman, Councilman Koski. I'm Ross Jonick with the Surface Water and Sewers Division of Public Works. I think to get to really to the heart of your technical question, I think would really take some more time. I think, anecdotally we've heard, like Golden Valley, they've had their program for a while for point of sale, and it's really made a big impact, right? And you could think about the number of properties that get sold in Minneapolis, and just like if all of those were being checked over time, it would start helping the program. And I think a big thing with the point of sale stuff is, when the market was really hot, people were just getting and buying and no inspections, right? There's just no opportunity if they wanted the house. I think that's changed a little bit now and stuff like that. And, we're definitely getting calls more about like, hey, we just are buying this house and, we inspected it, what should we do? Lateral line's not very good, they're telling us. And so, having that requirement in there instead of just being an option that the homeowners could, pursue if they wanted to, I think could make a big impact over time just with the number of properties sold and the turnover during certain market periods with home sales. But
Can I just do a follow-up question to you, because now that I have you here? Is there, of what you have seen with this report and what we've talked about, I guess, in the past too, of the financial, legal, and administrative barriers outlined, which do you see could be the most practical to overcome in the short term?
of all the different programs that Ashley had mentioned.
I mean, we have legal barriers, we have obviously state statutes to go through, there's lots of different pieces. Do you see any of them? And obviously in the world of government, I think short-term, long-term, and, mean different things. But do you see that there's one that's more of a low-hanging fruit that we could work to support residents in more of a short term?
The warranty program, that's really, since it's another company doing it, I mean, there would be an effort on Public Works staff or to answer calls, and just when those letters go out, other cities, had told Ashley, they get a lot of calls, right? Like, why are you sending this to me? And, as a homeowner in the area, I get them from Excel, it's not from Excel, it's from the company, but it's Excel's logo on there and stuff like that. So, if it's that same type of letter with the city of Minneapolis' logo on it, right, we're going to get calls, but the private company writes the letters and the cities approve them. They send out all the mailings. They do them. The ones we talked to, they said they do 3 mailings a year. So there really is little involvement from the cities. There's no legal issues with us partnering with the company. Lots of Minnesota cities already do it. It's just a matter of, are we ready for potential pushback from residents who are unhappy with the fact that this letter's coming to them.
Yeah, and then we were successful with getting other state statutes changed. We would need to do that in this case as well. Do you think that there is, the appetite or our success rate could be fairly high just because we just were able to do this?
That I'm not positive. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I have a couple other. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Chair Cashman, Vice Chair Koski. I do just want to be clear, we don't have to change state statute to do sewer lateral repairs.
Oh, just the water?
Program, just for water service lines. Sewer lateral repairs and replacements are deemed in the public good because it reduces I&I, and that lowers everyone's payment.
Okay, I misunderstood that, so great. That is not as a barrier that I had thought would maybe
My
be there.
apologies if that was not clear enough.
Nope, that's fine. A couple questions about the point of sale option. From an implementation standpoint, what staffing, training, and inspection tools would be necessary to stand up and enforce a point of sale sewer lateral program in Minneapolis?
It would, Chair Cashman and Councilmember Koski, it would really come down to just the parameters Ashley had mentioned in her presentation. For example, if it was required to do an inspection, but there was no part on Public Works where we had to inspect a video or we had to and then track, did they make the change? If it was just more of a, hey, just want you to know as a new home buyer, this is the condition of your sewer lateral, and the seller has to disclose that and has to show them the video. That's pretty low level, right? And it would just could be potentially folded into the point of sale program that already exists, and just making sure the information's passed along. And at that point, it could be a negotiating factor of the sale, or it could also the buyer could back out because they don't want to have to deal with this. But if the parameter is no, the city, there's a lot of cities in Minneapolis do this, we want to actually have a program where we're tracking all of it. I live in West St. Paul, and when I bought my house a couple years ago, I got a certificate of compliance that so the sellers had to fix the line. I now have it. If I sell the property in the next 20 years, I don't have to re-inspect it. I can just, I already have my my certificate of compliance and stuff like that, So, but adding those programs in there, especially with the volume of sales that be in Minneapolis, it would be much more staff time to start tracking that, to looking at videos, and so it'd be more difficult. But it really comes down to what parameters I think the council would want.
Yeah, have you seen, or there might have been other examples, West St. Paul, is one example, but which compliance and enforcement mechanisms have been most effective?
Again, the enforcement is the least confirmed piece of the puzzle. Most of the cities try to track. They often just go onto MLS online and look at what sold, and then look to see if that in their computer system, if that property is currently in compliance. The issue, of course, is that if someone, let's say they're selling their house, they get the pre-video inspection, the city says, yes, you need to make these changes before you sell, but they sell the property anyways, there's really not a lot that can happen. You can go after the current property owners and say, we know that the sewer is out of compliance, you are now responsible for this. I think it was Mounds View that does have fines for someone not in compliance, especially if the property hasn't been sold in the time frame where they require compliance. So let's say it's 90 days out, they haven't made the changes, now they get a $100 fine that they haven't made the changes yet. But enforcement relies heavily on realtors being aware of the situation, and when they're working with their home buyers, ensuring that the home buyers enforce it. That's really the main enforcement mechanism, is education and home buyers pushing for it, from pretty much all the cities I spoke with.
Okay, thank you. Another question, I'm so grateful to have seen kind of these two different options as pathways forward, but do you think it would also make sense for Minneapolis to pursue an insurance and point of sale program simultaneously as complementary tools? What would be the advantages or drawbacks of that?
I'm not sure that I specifically spoke to cities about that combination. There was a few city examples who have an assistance program as well as a point of sale option. And so when they require these, the repairs, that the city then informs them there is this assistance program for whatever, $1,000, $2,000, 15% of the cost, whatever their parameters are. And that's how they get people applying for the assistance program, is through the point of sale policy. I would have to follow up about any concerns, going through my notes again, about the combination of point of sale and warranty. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything, but I'm not sure if Ross has any concerns.
I would just add that, if someone's planning to be in their home for a long time, let's say they bought 5 years ago and they're going to be in their home for the next 30 years, and their line's already old, it's probably a good idea to have insurance. Just you're going to be there for a while, and you don't want to have this huge cost suddenly hit you out of the blue. So I could see, both of those programs happening and have different benefits for the homeowner.
Okay. Thank you. That's the questions that I have. But again, I just want to thank you so much. I think if you can just go back to the page where you show the
age of the sewer lines.
The age of our sewer lines. I think this is a pretty powerful to show, what we're looking at in the future, and we think about climate change, and on top of the fact that there's many residents in Minneapolis that don't know that they are responsible for their sewer lateral lines. So that just alone of educating and making sure that homeowners understand that, and then making sure that they know that there are options, that the city, we have some pieces that can help, but there are ways that we want to try to help even more. And I just think that this has just been really enlightening to be able to figure out, how do we help support thousands of homes that are going to have this aging infrastructure that potentially, the reality of it is not all of them are going to break, right? But when they do, as you said, I think it's about an average $8,000.
That was the water service lines.
Oh, that's the water service.
Sewer are $7,000 to $20,000 about. As someone who had to replace theirs last year, I can attest to that.
I also have had to replace portions of my sewer line in the past. I have had many constituents who have come and asked about this, and lots of questions. And so especially, again, back to the climate change piece, and any homes that are close to, the creeks and water and different higher water tables, there is an increased potential that this could be an effect to their sewer line. And so I'm just really grateful for this work, and I'm really excited to partner with Public Works team. I see we have Andrew Kraft and Ross has been here. You guys have been partners all along in this, to see what we think is best for Minneapolis residents, kind of weighing all of these things. And I think that's what's really interesting to be able to see, is that, there's pros and cons to every single one. There's trade-offs to different processes and different ways forward. And I'm excited to kind of dig into that to see where we can at least start this work. So thank you so much for this work.
Great. Seeing no one else in queue, I'll ask the clerk to file this report. Thank you so much for the presentation. Our next item is related to the 2025 Climate Equity Reporting Platform, and I'll invite Megan Hoy, Director of Climate Equity Action, and Peyton Johnson, Business Process and Data Analyst, to begin this presentation.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Cashman, Vice Chair Koski, and committee. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Megan Hoy. I'm the Director of Climate Equity Action here in the Health Department within the Sustainability, Healthy Homes, and Environmental Programs Division. I oversee our climate equity plan and the advancements of the activities outlined in those in the sustainability team. And I'm very happy to have with me Peyton Johnson, our business process and data analyst, who will be presenting with me on the climate equity reporting platform that we're working to launch later this year. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Great. In brief, our agenda is that we're going to talk a little bit about climate equity reporting, looking backwards, some of the engagement work that we've been doing as part of preparations for launching this platform, a little bit about the structure and scope of the reporting platform itself, and then a snapshot on the timeline and our phased rollout. So up until now, we have had various forms of reporting on climate or climate equity progress. This has come in the form of reports that highlighted greenhouse gas emissions inventories and updates on those annually. These came out for a handful of years, but haven't come out in the last 3 years. We've also reported some policy and program activities through third-party reporting platforms such as the Carbon Disclosure Project and the Clean City Energy Scorecard published by the ACEEE and others. Over the last 9 years, our most constant report has been our Clean Energy Partnership Annual Report, which has significant amounts of valuable information, but does not comprehensively report out on the breadth and activity that's included in our climate equity plan. To ensure that community partners and all city staff have access to a comprehensive view of what's in motion and the impacts that we're making and the opportunity to give feedback. And we are looking to put forward this platform to help us increase transparency and visibility. Our objectives in creating this centralized platform are not surprising. We want to show progress towards the climate equity plan goals. We want to highlight the extent of our climate equity work through comprehensive reporting, show the benefits of this work for a wide array of community members with different life circumstances, and in putting forward that information in a variety of formats. We want to improve accessibility and transparency, as this has been requested by community members on an ongoing basis, and to increase collaboration across departments so that not only when we report this that we're showing who is working on these different activities, but also the act of coordinating and collaborating on updating this on an annual basis will incorporate collaboration and communication on all the activities underway. To better understand what successful reporting looks like, we have been engaging community on this topic. Back at the beginning of this year in January, we launched a new informal community task force called the Climate Legacy Roundtable, or CLR. The CLR is made up of 17 individuals as well as 4 alternates. And you can see a list of the different organizations or kind of boards and bodies that these different individual members are related to or coming from on the slide. The membership of these bodies does borrow specifically and intentionally from existing committees and community task force, such as Northside Green Zones Task Force, South side Green Zone Council, the SEAC, or Community Environmental Advisory Committee, or Commission, and EVAC, the Energy Vision Advisory Committee. This group is comprised of community members that are expert and have expertise in community organizing, environmental justice and environmental advocacy, clean energy development, residential weatherization, workforce development, transportation, electrification and mode shift, green space and gardens, clean air, industrial efficiency, and more. This group is focused specifically on providing input and perspective from the environmental justice community purview. Reporting is actually one of the topics that we are focused on in discussions this year with the Climate Legacy Roundtable. We're asking for their input on definitions, top priority areas for measuring impact, and the form in which we will be reporting and that they would like to see reporting come in. Assuming that you haven't committed all things from the Climate Equity Plan to memory, a quick reference here of the three kind of overarching goals within the Climate Equity Plan are community-wide carbon neutrality by 2050, that we aim towards equitable outcomes for our community through meeting the Justice 40 standard, which is that 40% or more of the benefits being received in community are received in underserved parts of the community, and living within our carbon budget. Without going down any rabbit holes of definition, in general, the format of the Climate Equity Plan is sort of set up around 10 different focus areas with strategies and actions built out underneath those. And as we translate and move forward with the reporting platform, we will be translating the plan, at least the focus area and strategy levels, into the reporting platform and building from there. With that, I will hand it over to Peyton to walk you through more detail.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Chair Cashman and members of the committee. My name is Peyton Johnson, and I'm a business process and data analyst at the Health Department. And I've been managing the launch and data collection for this platform, and we'll be presenting on the platform's structure and our approach to preparing it. So the overarching structure that we're planning is that we'll have these overarching indicators that we'll be reporting on that will track progress towards those headline goals that Megan introduced. We'll also be having strategy level updates. So each of those 43 strategies within the Climate Equity Plan, we'll be breaking a few out for ease of reporting. So we'll have 46 reported out on this platform. And each strategy will have its own metric that we'll report out against, as well as status in terms of not started, in progress, or completed. And then for strategies that are funded by Climate Legacy Initiative funds, those will be tagged for ease of tracking in this platform. We'll also be reporting on equity impacts in terms of storytelling, lived experience, and the impact of this work, as well as the distribution of programs and services, and then other key equity indicators which we're working with the Climate Legacy Roundtable and city staff to define. We'll also be including emissions tracking, which will include the greenhouse gas inventory for the city, as well as a greenhouse gas scenario tool, which we don't currently have, but we'll get into in a little bit. Our goal is to have this platform be very accessible. We're planning on achieving that by having strong visual elements to make information digestible, as well as content being made available in English, Spanish, Hmong, and Somali. This is a preliminary mock-up of what our homepage will look like. And this platform will include, as you can kind of see outlined here, those overarching indicators that we discussed, as well as some descriptions of the 10 focus areas of the plan, the strategy pages, as well as our greenhouse gas inventory scenario planning tool, and some other summary reporting. As you can see, we are adopting the city's branding style and images part of this, and making sure that we're having cohesion across our communication with community. And this platform will also be sharing the city's subdomain. So in ease of searching and finding this platform, it will end with a minneapolismm.gov. So we will have reporting on the overarching indicators. This is kind of a mock-up of what this will look like. And this will be reporting on those headline goals that we discussed. So kind of an example of what this will look like in reporting across all of the work tied to the Climate Equity Plan. We'll be reporting on the rate of greenhouse gas emission reductions, residential and business operational savings in terms of dollars saved, people served directly, and then also our estimated year for exceeding the carbon budget. We will also be having those 46 strategy pages, so each of them will have their own page similar to this mock-up here. And this is an example within the green space and trees focus area. This one's specifically tied to increasing the number of trees planted on private property. So for each of these pages, as I stated, there'll be kind of a progress indicator on how we're doing, as well as the metric that's associated with the strategy, in this case, the number of trees planted. We'll also have flags to indicate whether this is, specific strategy is funded by Climate Legacy Initiative dollars or not. And then each of these strategies will have kind of a narrative describing the context about why this work is important, why it was included in the Climate Equity Plan, and then the work that's currently being done to get us closer to these goals. And then we will also be having the greenhouse gas emission tracking and scenario tools. So the greenhouse gas inventory, Megan kind of mentioned, this comes out is in the Clean Energy Partnership annual report. We'd like to have this on the reporting platform so we can have kind of ease and accessibility of this information like more available to residents. So this will look like annual updates to that greenhouse gas inventory with comparisons to the milestones that we've established in the Climate Equity Plan to reach those carbon neutrality goals of 2050. And then we'll also be including a scenario planning tool, which will include kind of key greenhouse gas reduction scenarios that we're working on city staff to define currently. And that will allow people who visit this site to see the impact of different initiatives and actions on the greenhouse gas emission reductions that we'll be able to achieve. So this reporting isn't just about greenhouse gas reductions or the number of trees planted, but also about how we're distributing these climate initiatives and services in an equitable way. So we're also working on gathering input from the Climate Legacy Roundtable and city staff, to define benefits of climate equity work and priorities for this reporting. And then we're working with city staff to kind of evaluate these recommendations and make sure that these are feasible indicators for the data that we have available to us. Our current guiding concepts for reporting out on climate equity are focusing on how the benefits of this work is reaching community, sharing the lived experiences of community members, and using storytelling to highlight the impacts on quality of life of our community members, and also expressing where services and benefits are most felt. We will also be including other summary pages as needed. One example is we're planning on including a Climate Legacy Initiative summary page, which will have kind of dedicated space to summarizing the outcomes towards Climate Legacy Initiative funded programs. So as I said, these individual strategy pages will have tags so you can kind of look at those strategy pages and have more detail, but we'll also have an overarching summary of how that funding is spent and like the broader impact. So this slide might look familiar. It was present in kind of a Climate Legacy update that happened this spring, but this will largely just include things that you've seen before in terms of people that were directly served by CLI funds, low-income housing units served, greenhouse gas emissions avoided, percent of the funds that were invested in environmental justice communities, and annual savings to residents and businesses. And that takes us to our anticipated timeline for launching this platform. So we're planning a phased launch. We're still working to get this contract signed, but it should be happening very soon. And we're planning on having our first launch this fall, which will include kind of the foundational content in terms of our homepage, focus area pages, and strategy pages. This winter, 2025-2026, we'll have a secondary launch, which will include all of our progress indicators, those overarching indicators, as well as the strategy level metrics and the CLI summary page. We'll be including data visualizations to kind of flesh out the narratives that are going to be published on the strategy pages. And at that point, we'll have all the content translated in Spanish, Hmong, and Somali. And then for our phase 3 launch, that will be happening spring of 2026. And at that point, we'll be including our greenhouse gas inventory, scenario planning tool, and storytelling to help communicate the impact of this work. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time, and we'll yield for questions. All right, thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's going to be great to help educate residents on the impact of this work and what all goes into it. It'll also help us to make decisions about what's priority, how to make strategic decisions about where to invest money to actually achieve our goals. So I think that'll be really helpful from the policymaker perspective. And I just had a couple of questions here about some of the more granular aspects of our climate equity plan and where that would fit into this, which phase of this rollout we would be able to see metrics, which would be like reducing fossil gas use citywide 35% by 2030. How would we be tracking that? And at what point would we see our progress towards that goal?
Chair Cashman, thank you for the question. Excuse me. We seek in phase 2 to roll out a number of metrics and indicators that align with most of the major goals highlighted in the plan. And there may be cases where some metrics are challenging to measure, as called out in the plan, so there might be an alternative. But that essentially we will be looking at the strategy for each strategy to have at least one metric called out and published during that phase 2.
Okay, is fossil gas use citywide something that's hard to track?
Oh, you mean city enterprise versus community-wide?
Community-wide, yeah.
No, that part we are already reporting in our emissions inventory, so that part we can report on.
Okay, so that will be able to be included in phase 2.
Yes.
Okay, and then the second metric that we have in the climate equity plan was reducing housing energy burden to no more than 6%. I don't fully understand this metric, to be clear, but I do know that it's important to get a grasp on, because this is more of the energy democracy goal of actually making reducing energy costs for our residents, and ultimately we want to bring the cost down of having to pay for electricity and gas. And so how are we measuring this, and how are we tracking it?
Chair Cashman, thank you for that question. It's a very important metric, and it is something that we cannot currently track on a regular basis today. There have been attempts, and there's snapshots in time, at least at a state level. However, we are actively working to find the right channel for a data request, and have been talking to the Public Utilities Commission and other agencies to see where the best channel for getting some of this information is. It's not an answer to the question, but we are working to see if we can get ongoing flow of information that's specific to our community, and at what granular level we can get that, so that we can start tracking and reporting on that.
Okay, who would have that information? Who would the data request be to?
It will be to each utility,
Okay.
Ultimately, and we were checking to see if there were others that already held the information.
Is this something that we can ask them for within the Clean Energy Partnership, just at a city level, rather than going all the way to the state?
Yes, that's actually the pathway that we will take in some form. We were just checking to see if there was already information in hand.
Okay, thanks. Those are the metrics that I guess I'm most interested in. I know fossil gas is a big beast to target. We're still on gas. Like, we don't have a mass system yet. I know we're developing geothermal and district thermal energy networks and plan on that, but we still don't have a way to stop putting more gas pipelines into our community and using gas to heat our buildings and even our appliances in our kitchens. So that is a metric that I think we should just be very honest about, so that we can invest at the scale that's needed in order to tackle the issue. So, even if the data shows no progress, that is good data, because then we can put the resources that are required to actually tackle it. So that's just my 2 cents, is that I hope the dashboard is true and transparent with regard to the metrics that we are not progressing as fast as we need to be on. Any other questions or comments from committee members? And again, thank you so much for this work. It's really great. It's really great progress, and I can't wait to see it. And I know the community is all gonna really appreciate having a place to go for this information that is really technical in nature and that not a lot of us know off the top of our heads. So thank you so much. I'll ask the clerk to file that report. And we have concluded all business to come before the committee today. So with no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.